Everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and what I want to do is just make one more video. When I originally made the Stack Overflow post regarding the trouble I was having with our Koa application, someone did give me sort of an answer, and it makes sense considering sort of how Koa is supposed to sort of be more ES6 friendly, more friendly to some of the newer ways of handling asynchronous code in JavaScript. And it's just sort of using what's called AsyncAwait. Now, technically where we left off, our code was for the most part functioning, but I think the one going over this so that way you know how to implement in your routes in the future, and two, I do think it makes the routes work a little bit better. So worth going over, learning how to implement AsyncAwait in your Koa routes. Okay, and sometimes it does take a little troubleshooting. So, but basically the way it works, what async, there's two keywords, async and await. And basically all async is doing is just saying, so because again, what we're doing when we do this is we're passing through a function to the route. We're doing what's called a callback. And when you put the async before your parameters, it's just saying that this function that we're putting in is an asynchronous function. Okay? Let's start with the first route, is an asynchronous function, which means that it will wait for promises. A promise is, because again, things like going to your Mongoose database and getting information doesn't happen right away. So the problem that happens with the code sometimes is that it's going to go look for the blog information, but it doesn't wait for the information to come back. It just continues with the code and you get errors. So some of the ways you kind of avoid that is, one was by callbacks, two was by promises, but promise syntax can also be a little confusing. And the newest way of doing it is using AsyncAwait, which are really just promises with just nicer syntax. So basically what this does is that it says, you know, anything async means this function is going to be asynchronous. So this function starts here. And anywhere in that block of code, I could use a keyword await, which then says this code that's coming after this await keyword, treat it as a promise. So that means whatever it's supposed to do, don't expect it right away. But right now, just put a promise, meaning to come back and check to see if the information is there later. Okay. And you could use it different ways. And exactly what's the best place to put the await keyword in your routes is something I'm still thinking around with. If you read that Stack Overflow page, which the link will be in the video description, you'll see what the person who made the answer kind of recommended. He tested it out, it worked, and I'm kind of making it work. And it works. Okay, cool. So basically the way it works, I put the first function as asynchronous, but then we went and called the blog. I mean, I could technically put it in a wait before the blog, which probably wouldn't be a bad thing to do, but I didn't, and it works, so I'm going to leave it. But then we have to pass a callback to to Mongoose because it requires a callback, meaning another function, which is right over here, as far as what we do with the information we get back from the blog. So I just put the async there again, so that way we know that function is also async. And then I've been just awaiting my renders, my redirects, because that's where I was getting an error. That's where we were getting that error earlier, was always with the renders and the redirects. So making it wait to do it a little bit has seemed to help. And basically it's the same concept with all the other routes. Asyncs, putting the async keyword on the initial callback, and then basically putting await on my render. And basically, and again, all of this code will be over there on the GitHub, which the link will also be in the video description. But at this point, the code's been, hopefully you pushed your code over to Heroku, it's working, and everything is good. One problem I did have with my deployment from the last video is that I didn't realize that I had a mistake in my config variable on Heroku regarding my password. So I was actually able to edit, delete, post locally on my machine because my environmental variables were right in my .env file, but on my Heroku config variables, which it refers to when it's deployed to Heroku, it was slightly off, causing it to always tell me I have the wrong password every time I put in what I thought was the right password. So I couldn't like add, subtract, all that kind of stuff. I then fixed that and realized that was the problem with that. So some things, and again, these are just the things that go through your mind when you're trying to troubleshoot. Okay, that's the reason why I keep doing these little videos where and leaving a lot of the little challenges I've had along the way, so that way, hopefully, not only did you learn Heroku, learn Mongoose, learn Koa, learn Node throughout all these videos, but you've also learned some thought processes on how to troubleshoot, how to think through challenges in your code, so that way you can be a better coder. Because it's not about how well you do things. You're always going to run into challenges as a coder. You're always going to run into roadblocks where things aren't working the way you have. What this separates the good programmer from the not so good programmer is their ability to handle errors. Okay, we didn't even talk much about error handling per se. I mean, I do a lot of through the console logs, by console logging everything, so that way I can see where mistakes happen. But there's also other steps in error handling which you should look up using like try and catch statements and whatnot. But the idea is being able to diagnose the problem, fix the problem, and also make sure that when there's a problem and you're not there to fix it, that you make the experience for the user more easier, thus the try and catch blocks. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I will see you guys later on. Have a great one, and thank you guys for watching this video series.